morning, and here we are in the White Hart Hotel again. It is 8:35 on the morning of the 24th of May, 2023. We're going to hit a half-decent temperature today, somewhere around nudging 20, and it's going to stay sort of rather nice the next few days. But what we've got to do is take a look at the papers, the front papers. Later on, as you can see him lurking in the background, Stuart will be along to discuss the latest North Street development with me. And then a little later after that is John Henty is going to come on, and he will take a lighter side of things with some of the famous people that have kicked around Brighton and that we've actually spawned. But first, let's go to that cesspit, which is becoming Westminster. It is quite shocking that MPs keep on probing stuff when they should be getting on with looking after the country, and they're not. Number 10 is that for the Daily Mirror, the cops probe Boris again. And they also go with Rolf Harris's funeral, which we'll touch on in a minute. But they keep on digging up stuff that Boris either said or didn't say. It doesn't matter whether you like Boris or not. There's so much of this that you can take. Because my question is, if they're all busy digging all this dirt, what the hell are they doing in trying to look after inflation, energy costs, cost of living? All the things in that matter, immigration, which is now becoming another key issue. What are they doing? They don't seem to address any of these things. Why are we wasting our bloody money on them? Right, now, the Sun is going for vile Rolf's secret funeral. It would appear that Rolf Harris, who was shamed a few years ago as a paedophile, died a couple of weeks ago, and his family decided to have a secret funeral. Well, he was a public figure. He was caught, and he paid the price. Why shouldn't he have a private funeral? I don't know that anybody should really question that.
Well, he didn't actually bloody well. Well, he didn't actually apologise. So people perhaps went to the funeral, they could find it and threw brickbats at it.
Yeah, but I don't see it as a great big news story. I don't know about you. I must say that the papers are not being particularly helpful this morning. But the cops probe Boris again, and the secret Rolf funeral are the key issues. The number of Wednesday papers are lead with the news that former Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who last year was fined for parties held in Downing Street during the coronation lockdown, has been referred to the police by the Cabinet Office over claims he also hosted events at Chequers, the Prime Minister's residence in Buckinghamshire. The Eye says Mr. Johnson, who is still an MP, is fighting his future, but that he has blamed any appearance of wrongdoing on abbreviated entries in his official diary. Apparently what happened was that the Cabinet Office leaked his diary, his personal diary, to the media without reference to him. So everybody's up to dirty tricks. And it goes right through the political thing. I think if I walked out onto the street today and people said, what would you be most ashamed to admit that you were? I'd say a politician. They're none of them doing their job. They're all digging dirt. Goodness gracious me. The Guardian. Johnson referred to the police over a new claims of COVID rule breach. Right. In the Guardian also, anger in Cardiff as police admit following an e-bike before a fatal crash. Apparently the police were chasing an e-bike and it ended up in an accident. The Mirror. Shamed Harris's secret funeral. Cops probe Boris again. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Is this? Yes, there's Boris. the cops are probing him again, and at this time over parties that he allegedly held in Chequers. The Daily Telegraph, Johnson accused of COVID rules breach. Oh dear, Boris, they really got it in for you, haven't they? Boy, are they going after you. I'm no objection to these things being questioned. What I object to is the fact that they are taking away. We've got to worry about China. We've got to worry about Europe. We've got to worry about the States. We've got to worry about almost everything in this world. And what are we doing? Choosing to go after Boris for a party. I find that despicable. It's just a sheer waste of time and money. And when they could be getting on with other things. The Daily Express. Well, at least the Daily Express it's a stitch-up. Boris faces a new police probe into rule breaking. The police referral is described as complete stitch-up on the front of the Daily Express. The paper says allies of Mr. Johnson have claimed there is a vendetta being waged against him. Well, I'm not a bit surprised, with one source telling him that these were not work meetings, not family. These were work meetings, not family or friends or so-called parties. The Mail, Boris threatens to sue the Cabinet Office for COVID stitch-up. Well, why not? Why not?
Can I join you for a second?
You can.
I have actually just purchased the book Boris in 10. Right?
Yeah. Hang on, let me show you. Right, there you are. There he is lurking in the background.
Well, I'll sit here.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And the book is...
Okay, be careful you don't pull that down.
The book
Otherwise
is...
the whole thing will come to an end.
It's called Boris in 10. And...
Right.
Right, as you read through it, it's quite interesting because his actual mentor, Eaton, whatever it is, said he has his life is the beginning is the end, right?
Right.
The start is the end, because there are 3 great floors, right?
Yeah. Go on.
Yeah, let me just find it here.
Sit down, people. Some people can see you.
Right.
Right, you ready?
Boris, yeah.
There you go.
Fault number 1.
Yeah.
Boris is very, very interesting because he was very, very good with the people. He had a certain charisma about him, and he really actually he made friends with the actual he could consider evasions, right? And he managed to evade any of the lies and provisions, evasions and lies that he always manufactured all the time. Second,
I know. Sorry, let's just make sure we understand each point. What this guy is saying is that he told lies, but managed to evade anybody understanding that he was doing so. Is that right?
Well, no. Basically, he was very good. He was very charismatic. He was very good at talking to people and so forth and so on. But when it came to it, he evaded all that made him say, "Oh, he's a very good place. I'll vote for him because he's such a jolly good bloke." Well, they didn't know that he evaded lies and evasions of all kinds of nasty things that he's done.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
So they just saw him as a good guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Point number 2.
Number 2 is all consistent self-absorption and self-belief, well to be founded, personal, present, patient, getting. And he was very, very insistent that he get people to have his way, important to get his way. Okay.
Yeah. Now, but is this guy saying that he did that because he was self-confident?
Possibly, yeah, possibly. And then finally, the third one. Interested. He hated taking decisions if it became some would have if it became affecting his popularity. Lacks of moral, and he also, number 3, basically, is lack of moral sensitivities.
Right. So, first of all, he did things so that people would like him. And secondly, he lacked any sort of sense of morality. Is that right?
Yeah. And he...
now, who's the author of this book?
It's Selsdale. What's his name? Anthony Sels. What's his name? He writes about Anthony Sels something or other.
Well, anyway, it's somebody who knew him quite well.
Well, yeah, but he knew politics very well. Was a political writer. What was he? Salesman, something like that. Anthony
Right.
Salesman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's an interesting insight into Boris. Tell me this though, Stuart. You've kicked around the world. You've dealt with statesmen. You've dealt with politicians. You've dealt with film stars, and so on and so forth.
And I happen to know Boris, as a matter of fact.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, and I know his family as well.
Yeah.
Stanley. He's the same as Boris. He's a right chancellor as well.
Well, but out of all the people that you've met, are there any that you didn't look at as a journalist and say, my God, if only I knew some things about you, the story I can tell?
Not really. I'm not a dirt digger.
No, it's not a question of a dirt digger. It's a question of do you believe everything that you're told by these people?
No, but just equally, I don't believe anything I'm told in the newspapers.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, in other words, you've got a very healthy sense of skepticism.
Well, yeah. Of course. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, I do have a healthy sense.
Yeah.
But I was fortunate enough to work for a paper like the Financial Times, which was totally objective. So, my children said to me, 2 of my daughters said, Dad, what's your my biggest achievement in life? And I said, well, apart from you, I've written for the Financial Times, the Guardian, the Observer, the New Statesman, the Spectator, the Economist, the Boston Globe in America, where I was their Belfast correspondent. I'm a published novelist and a published whatsoever. My main achievement, I never worked for Rupert Murdoch.
Right. But, I mean, the fact of the matter is I've worked in Iron Curtain countries.
So have I.
So you know what it's like to live in a society where you know very well that the newspapers are just parroting whatever it is that the government says.
Well, some newspapers are.
I didn't come across any that really, during the period that they were in authoritarian rule, that really had the courage to actually stand up to the authoritarians, but also is they made damn sure that people of independent mind didn't get jobs in these papers.
No. No, there are newspapers and there are newspapers, right?
Yeah.
Now, you think of Murdoch, he has papers which stoke up pander to the lowest prejudice, titillate and so forth, and push through certain things, right?
Yeah.
The Mail's the same. They push through these things, these terrible things which are half true, and so forth and so forth. But I was fortunate enough to work for Financial Times. Now, when I joined the Financial Times, it was simply a financial rag and so forth and so on. And Gordon Newton used to say then, we just wrote stories about companies.
Yeah. But I mean, we're really talking about. You were saying today that you don't believe much of anything in the present newspapers. On what basis do you think that we're biased today, or have they always been biased? And the Financial Times was a nice oasis in the middle of a cesspit.
Yes, that's why I love that. Yeah.
Right.
Because he said he would fire you if you got things wrong, right?
Yeah.
So we then developed, say, on the one hand, and on the other hand, type style. Okay. My articles I wrote for the Financial Times just lay out the arguments and let the reader decide. I didn't say Trump is an whatever it was. I was just about to say ARSE.
Yeah.
Right. So, do you see the point I'm making?
Yes, I do.
And when I used to travel around the world, people used to say to me, "Well, the Financial Times is very bland, isn't it? It's very, it's not exciting." And I said, "Well, that's fine. That kind of newspaper, it suits me very well."
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we need newspapers like that, but I also understand, particularly since I've got this little operation here, is that if it's bland, people don't read as much and watch as much, and therefore you can't collect as much revenue. So you've got to, I would have thought in the boardrooms there's a great discussion about this sort of thing, wouldn't you?
No, the Financial Times didn't by circulation. They used to make a huge amount of money originally by what's known as tombstones, companies, IPO companies. They had to advertise and put them on the paper, and their tombstone is an initial for the public. An IPO is initial public offering of shares.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you would put an ad in the paper saying how the IPO had gone. It was called a tombstone ad. You see with it?
Yeah.
So they had those ads, and they basically made. Let me put it this way: they made their money through advertisements,
right.
rather not readership.
Yeah.
See, the Sun would be based on a huge, because the Sun is a paper where people lip smooth when they talk.
Yeah.
When they read, people whose lips talk,
Yeah.
don't know what they're reading.
Yeah.
In other words, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I totally accept your point, Stuart. All I'm really saying to you is that a lot of the stuff that is, quote, bias that creeps into newspapers is driven for reasons other than somebody just saying, "Oh, let's be biased."
Absolutely.
It's, the commercial interests.
But you look at Murdoch, for example. Okay.
Yeah.
When Trump was first standing for president, okay, someone said the New York Post, which is a Murdoch paper, was making accusations against Trump, and then people said, "Well, that's it then. Trump hasn't got a chance," because Murdoch was that same person. Now, if you roll back to Tony Blair, when he first wanted to get into power, he always went on his knees to Murdoch, begging him to put in the Sun to say vote Labour. Right?
Yeah.
So that is the way that democracy is walked,
Yeah. What's your take, though, on the two journalists, Bernstein and what was the other chap? Woodward and Bernstein, who actually uncovered Nixon's dirty tricks? I mean, it was fairly brave, I would have thought.
It was a very brave, and it's certainly very brave for the owner of the Washington Post, because she. What was her name? I can't actually remember her name now.
I don't know, but she was played by Meryl Streep.
Yes, she was. Yeah. And the thing was, she might have lost her place in society by doing that. She might have actually lost her money for doing that. And yet she actually said, go ahead.
Yeah,
that was an incredibly brave thing to do.
Absolutely.
It was a very good film, wasn't it?
It was a very good film. And do you see that sort of bravery in today's press media?
Well, again, I have to support my own paper, which I think has done very, very, very well. They just set out. I mean, you look at their sort of big reads. They're brilliant articles, really actual brilliant, and they don't push one way or the other. They just lay out the arguments, which is what should I want in a. I'm not watching a Murdoch paper. I don't care how many prostitutes Wayne Rooney's gone off with. I don't believe in celebrity news.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. I mean, it's. This thing with Willoughby and and whatever is why on earth that's getting. I mean, particularly since I'm an experienced television man, as I understand what goes on in these shows, and it's a whole burst of rubbish. Anyway, we've only got 5 minutes left, so let's just quickly let through the rest of the paper. The Times: this is no time to cut taxes, the IMF urges Hunt. Now, that's an interesting dilemma, because this is an area of some expertise of yourself. Is on the one hand, almost everybody, business and so on, are urging Jeremy Hunt to cut taxes. The International Monetary Fund are saying, no, don't do it. Where are you, Plum?
Of course, because if you cut taxes, a lot of people have got a load more money, and they probably stoke up inflation with the money.
Right.
That's why cutting taxes now would just increase inflation.
Right.
Because people who've got taxes, they've got a bit more money. And of course, they don't put it in the bank, they save, they spend it.
Right.
And look, what you've got to understand is interest rates are the only weapon that the bank has got against inflation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So you're very much on the side of the IMF.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, the reason that I'm posing this question is because an awful lot of people aren't. And it's very difficult for the average man in the street who does not understand the higher levels of finance and economic matters to know who they should support. It's interesting the IMF has come out and said. Now let's go to your favorite paper, the Financial Times. The Bank of England has very big lessons to learn after failing to spot persistently high inflation. Apparently, the Bank of England governor appeared before a committee yesterday, a parliamentary committee. I remember you and I actually talking about this and saying that we thought that the Bank of England had fumbled the ball. It looks as if that everybody's coming to that conclusion, including the bank itself.
Well, it's difficult to know, isn't it? Because inflation has got many problems, and people, you've heard the energy cap, which we all know about. We'll come to in due course. I think it's the inflation thing is very, very difficult to actually gauge in the current thing, because people do want to spend money, and money they haven't got, in other words, and because for things like the energy price, it's very difficult to gauge, the consumer thing. And there's all kinds of things, Ukraine, shortages of bread, this kind of thing, goes up because Ukraine is not allowing the wheat out. Trump is not, Putin's not letting the wheat go through Ukraine, is it? That's all kinds of things about inflation. It's a very curious thing.
Well, is your other favourite newspaper is The Sun? It leads on the fact that Vial Rolf's secret funeral, the TV pedo's death coming up for 2 weeks. Now, you actually are quite sympathetic to that cover-up, aren't you?
No, not at all.
Not sympathetic to the cover-up.
Not at all. The Vial Rolf, it's abominable that he did not say one word of regret. He was not just a paedophile, he was a sinister, nasty piece of work.
Yes.
And the reason they had the thing in secret is that he was so disliked. You could have sort of had people at these funerals throwing rocks at the rocks. I mean,
in other words, the same reason they actually buried Hitler in secret. Yeah. Okay, very interesting take on that, Stuart. And actually, the Metro goes along the same. Vial Rolf's secret funeral, and that. Let's see, the Daily Star. Love the Daily Star. I want to fight to the death with a bear. He says is TV Bob, whoever TV Bob is, wants to fight to the death with a bear. Well, I'll tell you, having faced grizzlies in the wild, nobody wants to take them on. Nobody, believe me. but the Star has to give you a nice little chuckle, doesn't it?
Well, it's gutter press, isn't it? And it's what's used to be called the yellow press or the gutter press.
Yeah.
Who was it? Randolph Hearst was the starter of the gutter press, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He used to come up with the most terrible stories.
But I mean, the thing I love about the Star is when everybody else is fighting tooth and nail about corruption, etc., what you'll find on the front page of the Star is little green men are really watching us. Brings a smile to everybody's lips at breakfast time. So there we are. It's 9:01. In fact, we've gone over our time by a minute, and nobody's going to complain, I don't think. So we'll be back at 9:30, and Stuart and I are going to take a look at what's happening in the North Street Quarter, or the Phoenix Revival, or whatever we want to call it. So for the moment, we'll say toodle pip, and say toodle pip.
Toodle pip.
There you go. He's there right on the ball for 30 minutes, and then we'll see you again. Toodles.